Action creates results, not overthinking. This is a truth most people understand on the surface, but very few actually live by. We live in a time where information is infinite, distractions are endless, and options feel overwhelming. In such a world, overthinking becomes a silent killer, not of your body, but of your ambition, your dreams, your potential. People spend hours, days, even years thinking about what they want to do, what they could do, what might go wrong, what might go right. And in that endless spiral of thoughts, they never take the one step that actually matters: action. You can dream all you want, you can visualize success, imagine greatness, and plan every detail in your mind, but none of that means anything if you don't execute. Thinking is safe, action is risky. That's why people get stuck. The mind craves comfort, control, and certainty. But real growth, real transformation only happens when you get uncomfortable. It happens when you stop sitting on ideas and start bringing them to life, one imperfect step at a time. Ideas are cheap. Execution is what makes them valuable. Most people don't lack intelligence, they don't lack creativity, they don't even lack opportunity. What they lack is the ability to move despite uncertainty. They wait for clarity. They want to be 100% sure, but here's the secret. Action leads to clarity, not the other way around. You get clear on your path by walking it, not by staring at it. You figure things out by doing, failing, adjusting, and doing again. That's the cycle. That's how people who start with nothing build empires. That's how individuals who are scared out of their minds still manage to create impact. They act anyway. Think about all the things you thought about doing: starting a business, writing a book, getting in shape, learning a skill, fixing a relationship. Now ask yourself, how much of that thinking turned into results? How much time did you waste overanalyzing, doubting, second-guessing, and procrastinating? Probably a lot. It's not because you're lazy, it's because thinking gives you the illusion of progress. It feels like you're doing something, but unless that thinking is immediately followed by action, it's just mental noise. Successful people don't waste time spinning in their heads. They move. They take the first step even when they're not sure where it will lead. They trust themselves enough to figure it out as they go. They don't wait until everything is perfect because they know it never will be. Perfection is a trap. It keeps you preparing forever instead of performing. Action, on the other hand, is movement. It's momentum. It's how things change. You learn more in 1 hour of doing than in 10 hours of thinking. You grow more in one real-world experience than in 100 hypotheticals. Action forces you to face reality. It gives you feedback. It tells you what works and what doesn't. It humbles you, challenges you, strengthens you, but more than anything, it moves you forward. Even if you fail, you're still ahead of the person who never started. There's something magical about momentum. Once you take the first step, the next one gets easier, and then the next. Before you know it, you're building confidence, gaining skills, and creating results. That's the difference between the person who watches from the sidelines and the one who wins on the field. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's movement. Relentless, imperfect, bold movement. People often ask, what if I fail? But the better question is, what if I never try? Because failure is temporary. Regret lasts forever. You can recover from a bad decision. You can bounce back from a mistake. But you can't get back the time you wasted waiting. You can't buy back the days you spent thinking instead of doing. Every day you wait is a day you'll never get again. Action is how you earn your life. It's how you turn goals into results and ideas into achievements. It's how you separate yourself from the crowd of thinkers, planners, and dreamers and become a doer. The world doesn't need more people with good intentions. It needs people who do something. People who get up, show up, and refuse to sit still. Because that's what it takes. That's where change begins. Not in your head, but in your hands. There is no perfect time to start. That idea, though simple, is one of the most powerful truths you will ever understand. Most people are waiting for a sign, for the stars to align, for the right circumstances to show up. They delay their actions, telling themselves they'll begin when they feel ready, when they have more money, more time, more confidence, or more knowledge. But those perfect conditions rarely, if ever, arrive. Life is messy, it's unpredictable, it's full of unknowns, and the people who win, the people who grow, are the ones who stop waiting and start despite the chaos. The illusion of a perfect time is dangerous. It keeps people frozen. It convinces them that waiting is wise, that patience will reward them with a magical moment when everything just makes sense. But that moment doesn't come, because action creates opportunity, not the other way around. You have to start before you're ready. You have to leap before you know where you'll land. That leap is where transformation begins. It's not comfortable, it's not safe, but it's necessary. The people who succeed are not the ones who started with all the answers. They're the ones who move forward while others hesitated. They chose to show up before they had everything figured out. They built momentum while others were stuck trying to make the perfect plan. They understood that the path becomes clear only when you walk it. No mentor, no strategy, no book can give you the clarity that real-life action will. You figure things out by doing, not by over-planning. Waiting for the perfect time is often just fear in disguise. Fear of failing, fear of judgment, fear of uncertainty. But fear feeds on delay. The longer you wait, the more powerful it grows. The antidote to fear is movement. It's doing the thing you fear before it gets stronger. Action shrinks fear. Waiting feeds it. You'll never feel fully ready, and you don't have to be. Readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision. You decide to start even when it's uncomfortable. You choose to move forward even when the voice in your head is screaming for safety. That's how breakthroughs happen. Not when you wait for confidence, but when you build it through action. Start before you're ready. This idea terrifies some people, but it's the only path to real progress. Too many wait until they feel confident or prepared, believing they need more time, more education, or more experience. But all of that comes after you start, not before. You grow by doing. You learn by trying. You develop skill by practicing, not by waiting for permission or perfection. The most successful people in the world didn't wait for everything to be in place. They began while everything was still messy, uncertain, and unclear. They stumbled, they failed, they got knocked down, but they kept moving. And that movement is what made them ready. They understood that you don't wait to become strong. You become strong by starting weak. You don't wait to become confident. You become confident by acting while you're still afraid. Every goal, every dream, every ambition begins the moment you choose to start. Not when you feel like it, but when you decide to. Starting messy is better than waiting for perfect. Starting scared is better than never starting at all. The discomfort you feel in the beginning is the price of transformation. It's the toll you pay for growth. And once you begin, that discomfort starts to fade. What once felt impossible becomes manageable. What once terrified you becomes familiar. That only happens when you take the leap. Waiting to feel ready is a trap. It convinces you that someday will come, that there's a right moment on the horizon. But someday is not a day of the week. It never arrives, and the more you rely on it, the more time you waste. Time you can never get back. You may not have all the answers now, you may feel lost, unsure, or even terrified, but if you can take one step forward, even in that fear, you've already begun the process of changing your life. You don't need to be fearless to begin. You need to be brave enough to act with fear in your chest and uncertainty in your mind. You need to trust that your strength will grow as you go, that you will rise to meet the challenges ahead, not because you were ready from the start, but because you had the courage to begin when it mattered most. Courage matters more than certainty. In the real world, the people who change their lives, lead movements, start businesses, or chase dreams aren't the ones who have all the answers. They're the ones who have the guts to act in spite of the unknown. The need for certainty holds more people back than failure ever will. Most people wait for reassurance before they move. They want to guarantee that things will work out. They want to be sure they won't make a mistake or feel pain. But life doesn't work like that. No one can give you a promise of success. What you get instead is a choice. Sit in the comfort of uncertainty or step into action with courage. Courage is doing it scared. Courage is making a move when you're full of doubt, when your hands are shaking, when your voice is trembling. It's not the absence of fear. It's the decision to not let fear control you. There are people right now with less talent, less education, less experience than you doing exactly what you've been thinking about doing because they were bold enough to try. That's the power of courage. It gets you moving while others are still convincing themselves it's too risky. Certainty is a luxury that action creates. You don't get to be confident until you take the leap. You don't get clarity until you face the unknown and move through it. The people who wait for everything to make sense never begin, but those who act with courage become the ones who figure it out. Progress doesn't come from standing still and analyzing every possible outcome. It comes from momentum, from taking steps even when you're unsure where they'll lead. You grow as you go, and the path becomes clearer with each step forward. Dreams die in hesitation, not because people aren't capable, but because they pause too long, they think too much, they wait too often. They let moments pass, doors close, and energy fade. There's a small window when your mind and spirit are in alignment, when an idea hits and your energy rises. That's your moment. If you don't act on it, that fire dies out. You begin to second guess. You tell yourself maybe it wasn't the right time, maybe it wasn't realistic, and just like that, a dream that could have changed your life becomes another silent regret. Hesitation is not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet and reasonable. It shows up as, let me think about it, or I'll start next month, or I just need to be a little more ready. But underneath that language is fear, the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of not being enough. And the more you feed that fear with delay, the harder it becomes to break free. Every time you hesitate, you train your mind to seek safety instead of growth. And slowly, you become someone who watches instead of acts. Someone who plans but never builds. Someone who wants more but settles for less. You don't need to be perfect to begin. You just need to be willing to move. The more you hesitate, the more pressure you put on the moment, the more pressure you feel, the less likely you are to act. Action is how you release that pressure. Action is what builds belief. If you want confidence, you earn it through decisions made in discomfort. If you want momentum, you generate it by refusing to wait. The longer you hesitate, the harder it is to begin. But the moment you do, when you take that first scary, imperfect step, you shift everything. Start before you're ready. The people who grow fastest aren't the ones who wait until they're fully prepared. They're the ones who say, I'll figure it out as I go, and they do. Because real learning happens in motion. You become who you want to be through action, not thought. You gain experience, skill, and clarity, not by reading or planning, but by putting yourself in real situations that demand growth. Starting before you're ready is not reckless. It's courageous. It's the most honest way to grow because it forces you to face your weaknesses and build your strength in real time. Everything you've ever dreamed of doing, every bold idea, every life-changing goal, lives on the other side of your fear. And you'll never be fully ready. You'll never have a moment when the fear is completely gone or the timing is perfectly lined up. But you don't need those things. What you need is to decide that you're no longer going to live your life in the waiting room of possibility. Decide that your courage matters more than your fear. Decide that hesitation is the enemy of growth. And most of all, decide that now is the time to begin, even if you're not ready, especially if you're not ready. Start before you're ready is not just a mindset. It's a declaration of independence from fear, doubt, and the perfectionism that keeps most people stuck. Too many of us fall into the trap of believing we need to have it all figured out before we begin. We think we need the perfect plan, the perfect skills, the perfect confidence, and the perfect timing. But the truth is, none of that shows up before you start. Everything you think you need actually waits for you on the other side of starting. The first step unlocks momentum. The first action shatters hesitation. The moment you start, even imperfectly, you signal to yourself and the world that you're ready to grow, even if you're not yet great. Most people stand at the edge of their potential, looking across to what they want but paralyzed by what they don't yet know. They think, once I feel more confident, I'll do it. Or once I'm sure it'll work, I'll begin. But confidence is a result, not a prerequisite. You earn it through action. You build it by showing up scared, uncertain, and unpolished. Think about a baby learning to walk. They don't wait until they've read a manual on balance. They just start, they wobble, they fall, but through movement, they grow. Adults are no different. If you want to become something you've never been, you must be willing to act before you feel ready. Perfectionism is often the enemy of progress. It hides behind preparation, making you believe that if you just plan a little more, you'll finally be ready to execute. But that planning becomes procrastination disguised as productivity. You'll always feel like you need more time, more practice, more reassurance. It's a cycle that never ends until you break it with action. When you start before you're ready, you learn faster. You adapt quicker. You stop obsessing over what might go wrong and start finding out what actually works, because no amount of thinking can teach you what one moment of real experience can. Starting scared is still starting. Too many people wait until the fear is gone. But fear doesn't disappear, it evolves. The only way to make it shrink is to act while it's still loud. The second you take a step forward, the fear loses its power. It doesn't vanish, but it begins to respect you. Action rewires your brain. It teaches you that discomfort doesn't mean danger. It proves that you can handle more than you thought. And with each move, you gain proof that you are capable, even in uncertainty. The discomfort you feel when you begin is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that something is changing. Growth is never comfortable, but neither is staying stuck. The pain of regret is far heavier than the temporary discomfort of starting before you're ready. And the truth is, most of what you're afraid of isn't real. You're not afraid of failing. You're afraid of being seen failing. You're not afraid of starting. You're afraid of starting badly. But every expert once looked like a beginner. Every master once fumbled, and every success story started with one unpolished, uncertain action. Life rewards movement. It favors those who take chances, who learn on the go, who act with urgency. The opportunities you dream about aren't waiting for the perfect version of you. They're waiting for any version of you brave enough to take the leap. Action is a magnet for momentum. Once you move, resources show up, people notice, opportunities align. You become a different person, not because you were ready, but because you were willing. When you look at the people who inspire you, remember that they started scared. They began before the world knew their name. They were insecure, unprepared, and unsure. But they moved anyway. They didn't let fear win. They didn't let perfection paralyze them. They understood something powerful. Readiness is not a place you arrive at. It's a state you grow into. Step by step, decision by decision, action by action. You don't need more time. You don't need another opinion. You don't need perfect conditions. You need to act. Because starting before you're ready is how you take control of your life. It's how you become the kind of person who doesn't wait for life to happen, but makes life happen, not with certainty, not with perfection, but with bold, consistent, imperfect action. Consistency beats perfection. It's one of the most misunderstood truths in success, personal growth, and transformation. People spend so much time chasing the perfect moment, the perfect strategy, the perfect performance, that they ignore what actually creates results. Showing up again and again, even when it's hard, even when it's boring, even when it feels like nothing is changing. Consistency is the quiet force that builds momentum when motivation fades. It's the daily decision to move forward when others stop. While perfection aims to impress, consistency is what builds legacies. Perfection is loud and dramatic. It wants instant results and applause, but it's fragile. The moment perfection isn't possible, it collapses. If you only act when everything is ideal, you'll act very little. But consistency, it's humble, it's patient, it's powerful in its silence. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to keep going. Because each small step adds up, each ordinary effort builds a foundation. Every time you show up, even if the result isn't amazing, you're laying another brick in the structure of your success. Most people overestimate what they can achieve in a day, but underestimate what they can achieve in a year of consistent effort. It's easy to get excited at the beginning. It's easy to be intense for a week, but intensity fades. Consistency sustains. It's what transforms habits into results and results into transformation. You don't need to be the best. You need to be committed. Not once, not for a short burst, but over and over again, regardless of how you feel. It's not what you do occasionally that shapes your future. It's what you do consistently. The small things done repeatedly are what matter. Writing 1 page a day might not seem like much, but over a year, that's a book. Working out 3 times a week might feel slow, but over months, that's a new body. Saving a small amount of money regularly might feel insignificant, but over time, that becomes financial strength. Consistency is how giants are built, not with one big move, but with thousands of small ones that nobody sees. What makes consistency powerful is that it's accessible to everyone. You don't need special talent, high-level connections, or genius-level intelligence. You just need the discipline to keep going. Even on the days when you don't feel like it, even when progress feels invisible, even when no one is clapping for you. That's where character's built. That's where most people quit, and where the few who keep going start to separate themselves. The gap between average and extraordinary isn't massive talent, it's uncommon consistency. Consistency doesn't always look impressive in the moment. Sometimes it's just waking up and doing the hard thing again, showing up to the gym, the keyboard, the meeting, the practice, even when it's inconvenient. The results may come slowly, but they do come, and they're far more sustainable because they're rooted in discipline, not emotion. That's why people who rely only on motivation struggle. Motivation is a spark. Consistency is a fire. And a fire, when fed daily, burns long after excitement is gone. There will be days when you don't feel like doing anything. Days when you feel tired, discouraged, frustrated, or stuck. Those days are the most important ones, because showing up when it's easy doesn't change you. It's when you show up in resistance, when you fight through the noise, when you keep your word to yourself. That's when the real shift happens. That's when self-trust is built. And once you trust yourself, your confidence rises, your self-respect deepens, and your momentum becomes unstoppable. Perfection tells you if you can't do it flawlessly, don't do it at all. But consistency says do it anyway. Do it badly. Just don't stop, because perfection is a lie. It's unattainable. It sets a standard that leads to paralysis. But consistency is freedom. It allows you to grow, to evolve, to fail without giving up. It teaches you that progress is not linear and that every step, even a small one, is valuable. The world doesn't reward the person who works hard once. It rewards the person who refuses to quit. The one who keeps building, keeps learning, keeps showing up day after day, even in silence, even when no one notices. Because eventually, they do notice. Eventually, the compound effect kicks in. Eventually, all those invisible efforts explode into visible success, not because you were perfect, but because you were consistent. Fear is a liar. It whispers stories that aren't real, predictions that almost never happen, and doubts that don't belong to you. It takes your potential and filters it through every past failure, rejection, and insecurity you've ever known. It doesn't speak truth. It speaks limitation. And yet most people listen. They listen to the voice that tells them they aren't good enough, not ready, not qualified, not capable. They believe the lie that fear tells, that if they try, they'll fall, that if they speak, they'll be judged, and if they start, they'll fail. But fear is not a guide. It's not a compass. It's a barrier. And the only way to move beyond it is to stop treating it like a friend and start seeing it for what it is, a test. Fear isn't trying to protect you, it's trying to control you. It tries to keep you safe by keeping you small. It wants you to shrink, to stay hidden, to play it safe. But the life you want, the dreams you carry, they don't live in safe places. They live beyond comfort, past the walls that fear builds in your mind. If you always listen to fear, you'll always play small. You'll always stand on the sidelines of your own life, watching others take the chances you were too scared to take. Fear tells you to wait, to doubt, to turn back. But growth doesn't come from listening to fear. It comes from doing the thing fear tells you not to do. You weren't born afraid. Fear is learned. It's shaped by experiences, environments, and expectations. But because it's learned, it can be unlearned. Every time you face your fear and take action anyway, you weaken its power. You prove to yourself that fear is not a fact. You rewrite your mental script, and slowly, the voice of fear gets quieter. Not because it disappears completely, but because you've stopped giving it authority over your decisions. Fear often disguises itself as logic. It shows up with reasons, excuses, and what-ifs that seem rational. What if I fail? What if I'm embarrassed? What if people judge me? But these questions aren't logical, they're emotional. They're rooted in self-doubt, not truth. The truth is, failing won't kill you, embarrassment won't destroy you, and judgment doesn't define you. What will hurt you is letting fear rob you of time, progress, and purpose. The cost of fear is measured in dreams delayed, goals abandoned, and potential never realized. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the ability to feel fear and act anyway. Some of the strongest people in the world are not fearless. They're simply disciplined. They've trained themselves to move despite fear, to walk into uncertainty and trust their ability to figure it out. You gain power over fear not by waiting for it to vanish, but by proving through action that it can't stop you, that you are stronger, that your mission matters more than your comfort. Fear is loudest at the edge of change. It screams when you're about to grow, when you're about to risk, when you're about to break free from what's familiar. That's not a sign to stop. It's a signal you're on the right track. If you're scared, it means you're stepping into something real, something meaningful. The presence of fear doesn't mean you're not ready. It means you're about to evolve. And the more you move through it, the more fearless you become. Not because the fear is gone, but because your mindset has changed, because you've learned that fear doesn't control you unless you allow it to. Don't wait to be fearless, wait to be bold. Fear loses power the moment you step into it. The first time you do the thing you were afraid of, you change. You begin to see that most of your fears were nothing more than shadows, big in the dark, but powerless in the light. And every time you walk into fear and come out the other side, you become braver, more capable, more you. Not the version shaped by fear, but the version shaped by truth, by action, by experience. That's how you reclaim your power. That's how you prove fear is a liar. And that's how you begin to live on your terms, not dictated by fear, but driven by purpose. Every second you spend in hesitation is a second you lose in opportunity. That hesitation, the pause between idea and execution, is often invisible, but it's powerful. It's the moment where dreams die quietly, not with a dramatic failure, not with a public rejection, but in silence. That second of doubt, that small voice that says, wait, becomes the thief of momentum. And while you're hesitating, someone else is starting, someone else is moving, someone else is building what you're still thinking about. Opportunity does not wait for certainty. It shows up unannounced, dressed as hard work, risk, and discomfort. It doesn't come with a label that says this is your big break. Often it comes disguised as inconvenience. And if you hesitate, if you wait for a better time, a better mood, a better setup, it slips past you unnoticed. Most people miss out not because they lack talent, but because they hesitate too long. That 1 second delay turns into a day. That day turns into a week. That week into a year. And before you know it, what was once a burning desire becomes a faded thought. You must understand the value of now. Not tomorrow, not next month, now. Because now is all you ever really have. The past is over. The future is not promised. And every second you let slip through your fingers is a second you never get back. The more you wait, the more resistance you build. The task doesn't get easier, the fear doesn't shrink. In fact, the longer you wait, the heavier the task feels. The longer you delay, the louder the inner critic becomes. That's how hesitation grows into paralysis. The people who rise, who build, who lead are not the ones who always feel ready. They're the ones who act while others pause. They see the door and walk through it. They feel the fear and keep going. They don't let the weight of hesitation sink them. And because they act, they learn. Because they move, they gain experience. Because they start, they get better. That's how skill is built, not through perfect plans, but through courageous movement. Time is not something you control, it's something you invest. Every moment you hesitate is a moment you could have been growing, learning, pushing forward. And the truth is, most people regret more of what they didn't do than what they did. The chances not taken, the words not spoken, the dreams not chased, the what if pile up when you let hesitation rule your life. And those regrets don't fade, they haunt. Because deep down you knew you could have done something, but you didn't. Hesitation convinces you that you're being cautious, but really it's fear wearing a disguise. It's the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of not being good enough. But these fears are only real when you give them space to grow. Action is how you shrink them. Action is the antidote to hesitation. The second you move, the second you choose progress over comfort, you reclaim control. You shift from victim of doubt to master of momentum. Every second matters. One decision can change your entire direction. One step forward can lead to a door you never knew existed. One brave moment of action can create a ripple that alters the course of your future. But none of that happens if you stand still. None of that happens if you hesitate. And here's the truth that changes everything. You don't need to know everything. You just need to move. You'll learn on the way. You'll grow as you go. But first, you must choose to act before the moment passes, because the clock doesn't stop for indecision, and opportunity doesn't knock twice in the same way. So if you hesitate, you may lose the very chance that was meant to change your life. Your future depends on what you do now. That sentence holds more weight than most people are willing to acknowledge. Too often, people talk about the future like it's a distant place they'll arrive at one day, separate from who they are and what they're doing today. They dream of success, of happiness, of impact, but they fail to connect the dots between their current actions and their future reality. The truth is, the life you'll live tomorrow is being shaped by the choices you're making today. Every decision, every habit, every small effort you put in or fail to put in is designing your future, with or without your awareness. You don't become successful one day. You build success through a series of committed decisions. You don't stumble into discipline. You practice it in the tiny, often invisible moments when no one is watching. You don't wake up with confidence. You earn it by keeping promises to yourself again and again, especially on the days when it would be easier to quit. Your future isn't something you wait for. It's something you create. Every time you choose growth over comfort, discipline over distraction, effort over excuses, you are investing in the future version of yourself. Most people want a better life, but they live today as if it doesn't matter. They scroll, complain, avoid hard things, and tell themselves they'll be different tomorrow. But tomorrow isn't magic, it reflects today. If you want a future that feels strong, free, and fulfilling, then you need to live today with urgency and responsibility. You must understand that time is not unlimited. Every second that passes is one you'll never get back, and the longer you delay your growth, the longer you delay the life you want. Scary truth is that your habits are predicting your direction. Look at how you're spending your mornings. Look at how you talk to yourself. Look at how you treat your goals. Are they sacred or optional? These aren't just behaviors, they're building blocks. They are either leading you toward the future you desire or the one you'll regret. And the difference between the two often comes down to your level of awareness and your willingness to act. Your future is not decided by one huge dramatic decision. It's shaped by your daily patterns. It's found in how you handle discomfort, how you respond to setbacks, how often you choose to keep going when the motivation fades. If you consistently choose shortcuts, if you constantly procrastinate, if you always wait for the right time, then your future will reflect those patterns. But if you choose discipline when it's inconvenient, persistence when it's hard, and belief when you feel broken, your future will reward you for it. Don't underestimate the power of the present moment. Most people are waiting for a perfect time to start working on their future, not realizing that the perfect time is already slipping away. You cannot predict what life will throw at you tomorrow, but you can control how you show up today. And if you treat today like it matters, if you take that step, finish that task, build that habit, then you've done something powerful. You've respected your future. The version of you that's living the life you want, the strong you, the disciplined you, the successful you, is not born from wishing. That version is created by every tough decision you make today. That version of you doesn't happen by accident. It happens because you decided that now mattered, because you chose to plant seeds instead of making excuses, because you understood that your future isn't shaped by luck or talent or timing. It's shaped by choice. And every day, whether you act or not, the future is being written. Not in theory, but in practice. Not in dreams, but in decisions. Right now is not just another hour. It's not just another day. It's a chance, a responsibility, an opportunity to get one step closer to who you are meant to become. Not through waiting, not through wishing, but through doing. Because no matter how big your dreams are, they'll stay frozen in your imagination unless your actions bring them to life. Your future is listening to your present. The question is, what are you telling it?